Welcome to all our viewers. This is a Works of Art video chat. I'm Connie Tell, a curatorial consultant and arts programming specialist. I'm the former director of the Center for Women in the Arts and Humanities at Rutgers University, and I now live in Santa Rosa, California. When I was asked to select an artist from the Works of Art exhibit with whom I wanted to talk, I immediately selected an artist new to me, Karen Benioff-Friedman. Her work is extraordinary, and I strongly encourage you to go to the website, look at her work, and all of the works in the exhibit, purchase one or both of hers. They're very beautiful, and I'm pleased to introduce Karen right now.
Hello.
Hi, Karen. Can you give us a little background where you're located and a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I live in Berkeley, California. I have been, one of those people who is an artist her whole life, kind of meandering around from subject to subject, but pretty much always interested in the figure. I have been a sculptor and a fiber artist and a printmaker, and I've recently studied painting. Kind of just always have my fingers in many different media. But drawing is pretty much always, where I start and finish. If you go to my website, you'll see I do a lot of work that has a Jewish theme, in particular the theme of the Chevra Kadisha, which is, it's the organization of people who care for and tend to the dying and the dead. And that's something I've been doing for, almost 20 years, maybe 18 years. And excuse me, I'm working on this project of documenting the Chevra. And if I sound a little hesitant, it's because at this moment in the world of COVID-19, it's pretty much all come to a stop. And so I'm having to rethink a lot of what I was planning on doing and what I've been doing.
Maybe you can talk about
them. Yeah. So what those are monotypes, which is a form of printmaking, which is also something I've been doing ever since college. I love printmaking and love, printmaking, monotype in particular. It's really just drawing with ink, and there's something about the way the ink and the paper meld.
Can you describe that process in a little bit more detail for anyone who doesn't know monotypes are?
Sure. In monotype, you're using a big press, like an etching press, which is a great big roller in a steel bed, and we use lucite plates instead of zinc plates like etchers use, and we roll out the ink, or we paint on the ink, or we finger paint the ink, or you get the ink onto the plate and you manipulate it. And I do a lot of drawing with my hands, and then I also use a few tools. There's something called tarlatan, and that gives me a very unique wipe. The ink softens it up. So if you look at my work, it's very kind of liney and dense and organic, and I get that from this particular cloth called a tarlatan. Mm-hmm. And you put the ink down, and then you can run it through the press. And what's beautiful about monotype, or printing in general, is you then take your paper off, you can soak it in the water again, you can re-ink your plate, and you just start layering color over colors. You can layer and layer. You can print, up to 10, 15 times before your paper starts to degrade.
Yeah. So unlike with etchings and these are uniques.
Yes, so that's why it's called monotype. There's only one. There's no addition. You can get what's called a ghost image. So you print one and there's still residual ink on your plate. You can print another one, and it's usually softer and lighter. And either it's a completed work in itself, or you can use that as the base for another print. So a lot of times I use printmaking as a place to just generate ideas, or to, I'll take a thought, a spark in my head, and I'll just let my hands do the exploring. I find in general with monotype, my hands know better than my head what I want to do. So in the Works of Art showed one of those, there's two images I put in, and one of those is a really fast drawing done with, you know, my fingernail and just a gesture drawing, I guess. And then the other one is a little bit more slow and considered.
What are the two titles?
The first one I was talking about, that's called Democracy Striding, and it's kind of this figure and she's moving forward. And the other one is, oh, I had a blanking moment here.
Oh, it is letting me grab now, so hold on.
Oh, good. Dialogue, thank you. Yeah, and so that one is a little bit more of a slower considered composition. So yeah, so most of my monotypes are figurative. And I tend to work, you know, sort of reductively. I will tend to roll out my ink in a smooth, like a big, you know, cover the whole plate, and then I will wipe back to get the image that I want. And sometimes I have a particular image in my head. A lot of times I just kind of see what happens. And that's what I love about monotype, is just, you can plan all you want, but then something completely unexpected and wonderful will happen.
They're beautiful. I just think they're gorgeous. And when I went to the website to see what artist I wanted to talk with, I saw them and I thought, wow, these are extraordinary. And I encourage everybody to go to the Works of Art website and look at the online catalog and find Karen's work, because I think you'll see them as I do. And I wanted to, if you don't mind, I'd like to kind of circle back to the Chevra Kadisha. When I went to your, researching you, I went to your website and I saw and I read about the tradition and the process, and then your work was just amazing to me. And Karen's website is actually listed next to her name on the screen. And I also encourage everybody to go to her website and look. The work is really beautiful. So can you talk about, first of all, explain a little bit more detail what the process is, what this tradition is and the sacredness of it and your emotional connection to it.
Sure. So where would I start?
How did you discover it?
I discovered it. I went to a Yom Kippur service at my synagogue, and our rabbi at the time kind of stood up and said, you know, we're going to do this. This is something that is intrinsic to the Jewish tradition, but has been lost. And he and his friend David Zinner in Baltimore, Maryland, they decided to resurrect it. And the two of them created, well, other people also over the years, probably starting in the 1970s, American Jews decided to sort of take back from the funeral industry the sort of sacred rituals of the dead. So he gave this sermon on Yom Kippur about how our community was going to create one, and I thought, oh, this is so cool. I'm in. I don't know why. I think most people in the Chevra, if you talk to them, they'll just say, you know, they're just called to do it. So I went, and the Chevra does not like do a lot of meetings, so they have one meeting every year. That's it. So I went, you know, for a few years to these meetings. I never got called in to do one, and then a friend of mine, very sadly, got cancer, and very, very aggressive cancer. And she asked me to be on her Tahara team. And I agreed, not, you know, with a little trepidation. And so that's kind of how a person starts doing it. You just do it. You get asked.
Can you explain to the audience who may not know really, what is it that you do?
So so doing Tahara is just one part of what the Chevra Kadisha do. Chevra meaning group, and Kadisha meaning holy. So the Holy Society, it sounds a little highfalutin, but we tend to, you know, if you're in a hospital, then we will go visit you, and when you when you have passed away, when somebody passes away, they call in the Chevra, and we go to the mortuary. We also will attend the family and help them with whatever needs help with the other things they need to do to prepare for a funeral. And then the group of people will go into the mortuary, usually three to five people, and we basically wash her, and we dress her in particular linens, and we put her in a casket. Oh, excuse me, we purify her with three buckets of cold water. And we this very shocking cleansing. You know, I think it's related to a lot of other, you know, Jewish rituals of mikvah, of purification. Then we get her dressed, and we wrap her in her shroud, and we put her in her coffin, and all this time we're reciting blessings and being attentive to her, and we kind of keep in mind that her spirit, her soul is with us in the room in its, you know, kind of confused state. And then we escort her out of the room, and then she is guarded all night or until the time of her funeral, and then she's buried in the ground. And I'm saying her because women will only attend to women, and men will only attend to men.
It sounds like a deeply emotional and spiritually fulfilling experience.
It is extraordinary.
Yeah.
It is extraordinary in so many different levels. It can be really intense. It could be really gentle. We almost never know the person that we are working on, but you can always get an idea of who they were. The first one I did, as I mentioned, was my friend, and you know, the first dead body I'd encountered was this friend of mine, and it was very intense, and so it kind of seared into me like what an intimate thing we're doing, but it's also extremely clinical. You know, you gotta like really be in the moment, and you gotta put on your gloves, and you gotta put on your gown, and you gotta do this step and that step, and you know, you're following a set ritual, so you have to have your mind in that, and there's really not a lot of time for your mind to wander and think about, you know, the deeply spiritual things. We're actually really there as workers in service to this person. So one thing that, you know, there's no Jewish laws about this. This is all tradition. So, but there are a few kind of hard and fast things that we do and don't do. And one thing is we don't talk unless it's, you know, the blessings that we're saying or particular instructions. So we don't want, there's no extraneous conversation. You know, we don't wear jewelry. We take all our jewelry off. We you know, anything that, I guess the rabbi put it this way, like if, you know, if we were to be wearing jewelry, if we were wearing our earrings, well, the Meital would, you know, like her spirit would feel bad because she can't wear earrings. Like she can't be a part of it. So we don't have conversations that exclude her. It's always all about her, and to really honor her body and her soul.
So when you come away from this experience, I mean, and you're an artist, so how can you not
right
work and you know, and
right.
respond somehow? And from what I understand, this kind of documentation from memory, obviously, has not really been done before.
Yeah, so I encountered this cycle of paintings that was made in Prague, in the Chevra Kadisha of Prague in the 1770s. And I was just talking to a friend of mine, trying to kind of get a little bit of the history of the Chevra. And these paintings are actually the first documentation we have about the whole process. It's oddly enough, like people never wrote about it. There would be, you know, lists of meetings and who attended and who was paying their dues and who got kicked out, but there was no like written description of anything. So all we have are these paintings, and there are 14 of them, and they're from 1770 to 18 something. I think there are two different painters. And if you go to Prague, you can see them up on the wall. And I got postcards of them, and I thought, oh, this is really interesting. Look what they do that's exactly the same, and look what they do that's so different. And I thought, nobody else is, as far as I know, been painting the subject. I entirely could be wrong about that. I haven't scoured the web. Maybe in Israel there's people doing it. I don't know. Or, and I would be delighted to see it. But I had just come out of art school. Actually, I was in art school when I saw them, and I thought, well, here I am. I'm like positioned uniquely to tackle this subject, and it's a subject I love. And I continue to do Tahara, whenever the opportunity arises. And I just thought, yeah, like I am coming at it with from a couple of different angles. One is I want to document, like, what are we doing? Who's there? What's going on? And then I also, mostly through the monotypes, kind of get a more emotional sense, a more spiritual sense of what it feels like. In the monotypes, I can't really document what it looks like. So it's really more how I feel.
When I look at them, and there are paintings, drawings, and monotypes on your website, and the sense I have is that it's part of the honoring, it's part of the, maybe I'm projecting, but because I'm not in the room, obviously, when you're performing the ritual, but it's sort of the afterglow of them. It's like you're addressing what has happened, and you're recording it on a piece of paper or on a canvas, and it's part of the ritual, and what is how I saw it. I'm projecting, of course, but it sounds like it is for you too. It's part of it.
Yeah.
It's the response, it's your emotional connection to it, and women taking care of women. I think it's a beautiful thing. And it's, part of our tradition.
Yeah, and one thing that I was very particular about in doing the paintings is I wanted to portray women attending to women, because in the original paintings there are no women. There's a couple women sewing, and there's one woman mourning, and other than that, it's just all the men, which is lovely. We love the men, but the women also have been doing this since the beginning. It's very clear, but there was no documentation of that, so I wanted to make sure we include.
Yeah, they're beautiful. They really are. And I think that the two pieces that are in this show, in the works of art, are also, although not from the same series, similar. That very emotional monotypes are like that. You can just, they tell you, you tell it. There's a conversation between you. It's much like painting. You can make it how you think you want to make it, but the painting or the monotype is going to respond to all of that. So they're lovely. They're really beautiful.
Thank you.
I hope I hope somebody buys both of them so I don't have to, so that I don't. So again, Karen's website is www.karenbenioffriedman.com. It's listed here, but do go to the Works of Art website and take a look at all of the work, and particularly at Karen's. I think you will enjoy what you see.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.